So I thought that I would give you guys a quick rundown summary of everything that's kind of happened so far. So with this specifically, I've had 2 x-rays, an EMG, and an MRI done. Scheduled for another EMG and another MRI coming up in the next couple of weeks. I should have footage of both of those. I don't have footage of what I just previously mentioned, the 4 other things that have occurred. I know that I only just held up 3 fingers, but 4 other things that have occurred. I did not know that this was going to be such a big, lengthy process, so I didn't know that it was going to turn into a vlog situation. But I can kind of give a summary of all of that. In early 2023, I went to my primary care doctor and I told him that I was experiencing numbness and tingling in all 4 of my limbs. So both my arms, both my legs. And then I'm experiencing a lot of pain in my neck that goes down into my shoulders across kind of the top part of my back. Then that kind of radiates down into my arms and my hands sometimes. And then a lot of pain in my lower back that then will like radiate down my leg. I'm also experiencing like muscle spasms in my feet, and then sometimes like unexplained muscle movement that I can't control. So I probably have a couple of videos I can insert of my fingers. They'll just kind of randomly start doing this and I can't control it. So I went to him, I told him that was what was going on. So March 24th, he ordered the first x-ray. I went over, I got it done. It was a cervical spine x-ray. That actually came back normal. So I went back to him, he said, I want to send you for an EMG. So I go down to Indianapolis for my first EMG and I go get that done. If you don't know what an EMG does or what an EMG is, a test, I will explain that a little bit later on. But I went down to go get my EMG done. He originally told me that he thought that I might have neuropathy from what I was telling him. I go down, the test results come back and they say no neuropathy, but you definitely have some myopathy. So go back to my primary care doctor. He tells me I've never seen this kind of myopathy before. Wasn't entirely sure where to go from here, but I did some research and I think the best route is to send you to a rheumatologist. Now, I do have psoriasis that's been diagnosed since I was very young. Psoriasis is something that a rheumatologist typically takes care of. So at some point I knew that I knew what a rheumatologist was, and I knew that that was probably in the future at some point for me. Just didn't realize that it wasn't going to be specifically for the psoriasis at this point. It was going to be for something else. He sends me over to the rheumatologist and she decides that she wants to get started with a blood test and an x-ray. So they did an x-ray on my lower back, and then they did the blood testing. The blood test all came back normal. This was in June. The x-ray came back abnormal. So she said that she wanted to go ahead and follow up with an MRI based upon the abnormal x-ray and the EMG results that she had seen. So she sends me over for my MRI. So the first MRI that I went over for, I never had an MRI done. I will say this much, I know other people that have had them done. They also ask you a ton of questions like, are you claustrophobic? Yes, very claustrophobic. The facility that they sent me to, they did end up sending me to an open-ended MRI machine to go into because I had expressed that I had a lot of anxiety and extremely claustrophobic. It was such a pain to get to that facility. It was the worst drive ever. So I was super stressed when I got there, had no idea where I was going. I did end up going in the emergency room entrance, just because I knew that somebody in there would be able to point me in the right direction. But I was so stressed by the time I got down to get checked in. Luckily, the receptionist was super duper sweet. I was also about 2 hours early. That's not super abnormal for me. But their waiting room was also freezing cold. Anyway, irregardless, so I get in, I get checked in, I fill out all my paperwork, they go ahead and they take me back. I will say this, my rheumatologist had originally told me it's going to be about 20 to 25 minutes in the machine. I'm like, all right, perfect, great, right? So I'm mentally prepared, 20, 25 minutes in this machine. I get in there, the receptionist is like, okay, it's going to be about 30 minutes in the machine. Okay, 5 more minutes, I'm not totally panicking, it's fine, we can handle that. Then I get all the way in there and the tech is talking me through it while I'm getting changed, and she says they've already been through all this already before, but this is this, and it's going to be about 40 to 45 minutes in the machine. Somebody adds just a little bit more time and I really am gonna freak out. But I'm like, irregardless, it's fine. Let's just get it done and over with. We get it done. I don't ever have to do it again, right? Or so I thought. Anyway, so I go in a little changing room. There's a little locker in there. She tells me to take off some stuff. I don't believe I had to wear a medical gown for the first time that I did my MRI. I know a lot of other procedures I've had to, but I don't believe that I did. I think I was allowed to keep my own personal clothing on. So she gets me in there. I lay down. I went in feet first for this MRI, and I'm not gonna lie, I was too scared to ask for accommodations, and I kind of wish that I hadn't been. I had seen other friends, family members, who told me that they were given the option to listen to music while they were in there. I was too afraid to ask. I was so anxious about the procedure itself and just didn't want to be a burden. So I didn't ask, and I kind of wish that I would have. She did offer to put a washcloth across my face. I didn't want anything touching my face. I thought that would just make things worse. So she has me lay down. We're all good. She did tell me that she would give me kind of like a halfway point warning. She did, which was amazing. I really appreciated her doing that. I think that really helped to kind of be like, okay, I've made it halfway. You can make it the rest of the way, and just kind of power through it. So I did have kind of like a coping mechanism or like a plan to try to help my anxiety while I was in there. Didn't work one single bit. So I kind of had to think on the fly while I was in there. It's very, very loud. And I feel like nobody tells you how loud an MRI is before you get in there. But the machine is very loud. It makes a lot of really loud noises. At one point, it kind of sounds like there's an alarm going off. And I'm like, uh-oh, is the machine malfunctioning? Oh no. It's not. It's the machine doing its thing, magnetically taking images of your body. But they do give you earplugs when you go in. So I did have that. But I was just kind of playing little games with some of the sounds. Some of them sound like they're saying words. So I was trying to see like what kind of words that I could hear. But I did end up getting through it, and she started pulling me out of the machine. I will say this much. I think I made a mistake at the very end, right before she got ready to pull me out, and I am a little worried that it's going to make my next MRI extremely difficult. Right before she got ready to pull me out, I was like, oh, look, you're done. Open your eyes. I kind of want to see what it looks like in here, you know, just for reference. So I opened my eyes, and the MRI machine is about this close to my face. When I say I'm claustrophobic, I mean I'm extremely claustrophobic. When I was growing up, we used to go camping a lot, and I spent the night in one of my friend's campers, and she had like bunk beds. I don't do bunk beds. I really don't. But I spent the night in one of the bunk beds, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was like, I wonder where the ceiling is. And I went to go like touch it, and instead of being able to like fully extend my arm, it hit a lot sooner than I thought it was going to, and I had a panic attack. And I don't remember, I think I was like gonna go wake my friend up, and then I was like, probably shouldn't, just because it was middle of the night. I either ended up sleeping in their chair in the living room, or I slept on the floor until everybody got up. I don't quite remember, but I do remember that I was like having trouble breathing and didn't really know what a panic attack was at that point, but I'm like hyperventilating, and I'm like, I can't sleep up there because I feel like I'm suffocating, even though there was plenty of room for me to still be sleeping up there. It still was just terrifying. So knowing how close the top of that machine was to me, I'm a little bit nervous that it's going to make my next MRI a lot more difficult to get through. So we'll see. But I do plan on asking for accommodations this time, telling them, hey, I'm nervous, I'm anxious. I do plan on asking for music though. Hopefully that'll help a little bit. Typically music that I know the words to helps. I don't know if it's going to be a radio station. I don't know if it's gonna be a playlist. I would love it if I could like hook my phone up and then play like one of my Spotify playlists, just so that I know that it's gonna be music I know the words to. But we'll kind of take what I can get. Okay, I know you guys probably can't see me. It's still very dark outside, but we have made it to our destination, to the radiology. I am about 30 minutes earlier than they asked me to be here, which I don't think they're going to complain about. It did sound like they had quite a bit of paperwork for me to fill out. They gave me about 20 minutes to do that before the actual MRI starts. So I'm probably going to hop in there real quick, see what they need me to get done, and then just chill on my phone for the most part. MRI number 2 done. It's definitely a lot lighter outside than when we started this morning. That also definitely went way better than I expected, which is awesome. I'll talk about it in detail a little bit later, probably once I get home. But yes, that went so much better than I thought it was going to. I'm extremely claustrophobic and I have a ton of anxiety. There's a part of me that's just kind of, there's all these like warnings and forms and stuff that you have to fill out beforehand, and they're like, do you have any metal in your body? And for some reason my brain is like, do I have metal in my body? I just don't remember getting put in there. What if I do? Alright, so I ran my errands and I am home now. Just to follow up from the MRI, like I said, it went so much better than I expected it to. Once I got there, I got inside, started filling out my paperwork. She actually came over. I had about 40 minutes. They had allotted 20 minutes to fill out my paperwork. I got there about 20 minutes early, so about 40 minutes. And she came and got me after like 10 and was like, yeah, the tech's just about ready to see you. I'll get you taken back. I was like, okay. So they took me back to a little room. This all happened during my first MRI, so this was nothing new to me. But they put me in a little room with a locker, asked me to take off everything, and gave me a little gown and a pair of paper shorts. The first time I wore my actual clothes, I didn't have to change into a hospital gown or anything, but this time they had me do that. Then I went back and I started talking to the tech. She had a little like image pulled up on screen and she was kind of confused. And she's like, have you ever had surgery on the places that you're getting MRI today? I was like, nope, never had surgery before. She was like, okay, they normally don't ask for contrast unless you've had surgery on those places before. I was like, okay. She was like, I'm not entirely sure that you actually need the contrast. Who ordered this being done? Was it your primary care doctor? I said, no, it's my neurologist. She was like, oh, okay, that's probably the reason why they're doing contrast. So I'll talk to our radiologist. I'm going to assume that it's going to be okay, but I'll talk to them and I'll see what's going on. I'm like, okay. She's like, but I can go ahead and get you started. All right, sounds great. So she takes me in the MRI room and I start panicking just a little bit. And I'm standing there and I told her, I said, I'm just going to tell you right now, I'm terrified. So incredibly nervous to get this MRI done. She was like, okay. So she gave me a second, hands me some earplugs. They ask you to wear earplugs. The MRI machine is very, very loud. So then I ask, is there any way that I can listen to music? I've had a couple of other friends who've gotten some MRIs done, so I know that listening to music is an option. She said, yeah, of course, definitely. What would you like me to put on? I said, I don't know, because my music taste is kind of all over the place. She's like, well, I've got country, I've got pop, I've got indie. I'm like, country sounds perfect. Absolutely, yes. She's like, alrighty. So she gives me a second. She's like, whenever you're ready, go ahead and lay down, and you're going to put your feet this way. My other big fear with going in for my MRI was that they were going to ask me to go in head first. The first time I did it, I went in feet first, and I was like, please don't make me go in head first. So turns out I was going in head first. I was like, all right, now I'm really panicking. And she's like, are you going to be okay? I was like, yeah, I should be fine. I just want to get it done and over with. The other nice thing, I said, how long is this supposed to take? I'm just wondering. She was like, about 20 to 25 minutes. I was like, okay, great. We should be fine. So I lay down. She's checking on me the entire time. She was super sweet about it. She's the whole time, are you okay? Are you gonna be okay? And I'm like, yep. So I lay down and she puts a strap across my chest, and then they also put a like foam thing under my feet just so that my feet are like kind of up. So she does that, she sticks the headphones on, and then she hands me a like button that's attached to a really long cord, and she was like, this is if you need me to absolutely get you out of there. I was like, okay, so it's my panic button. She said, yes, exactly. If you need me to get you out, you're panicking, you can't do it, press the button and I will get you out of there. I'm like, all right. So I close my eyes, she raises it up, she's like, I'll give you just a sec if you want to just breathe for a little bit longer. And then she's like, are you ready? I'm like, as ready as I'm gonna be. So she starts putting me in the machine. I can kind of see it go kind of dark. I did start panicking a little bit at first, but once I was in there, I was fine. My brain kind of started drifting off towards panic, and I could feel it kind of going towards a thought process that was going to make me panic. And I was like, no, we're pulling it back to where it needs to be. So yeah, I ended up being fine. I think the music really helped. It was part of my coping mechanism that I was going to use the first time that didn't really work out. It actually worked out a lot better this time, and I think the music really helped. I also think knowing that I had the button if I needed it to press it, knowing that she was going to be able to know, I think that really helped as well. So she had also told me before I went in there that she was going to put me in, and then they had, originally my appointment was supposed to be at 7:40, and they called me and they're like, actually, we want you here at 7:20. So they moved it up 20 minutes, and she told me, she was like, I don't think they thought about the fact that I can't administer the contrast dye until the actual radiologist gets here. So I'm probably gonna have to put you in and then pull you back out of the machine if that's okay. I'm like, yeah, that's totally fine. So we do the first round of it. I also requested that she tell me when I was halfway through, or at least give me like a mark of when I was gonna be done. So she comes over my headphones and she's like, girlie, you got one more and I'm pulling you out of there. I'm like, all right, perfect. So it goes, I can hear it making the noises, it does one more round of it, and then it stopped, and then I could feel the bed start to move out. So she pulls me out. I waited until it was completely light before I opened my eyes, because I definitely didn't want to open it while I was still in the machine by accident. So she pulls me out, opened my eyes, she's like, you doing okay? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. She was like, okay, I'm just gonna have you lay here until I kind of see what's going on, see where the radiologist is. I'm like, all right, perfect. So I'm not gonna lie, I didn't get very good sleep the night before, so I was kind of sleepy. So I was sitting there and I like closed my eyes and I was like, no, honestly, I think it's probably better if I keep them open for the whole process the entire time that I'm out here, and then not close them until I get ready to go back in the machine. I don't know. I felt like I was gonna be like tempted to open them if I had them closed for too long. I don't know. My brain was just like, please, I don't want to panic when I go back in there. So, I have hair sticking up back there. Anyway, though, so she tells me, she was like, okay, I'm waiting on the radiologist, so I got to see what's going on. She was like, just try not to move like too much. I'm like, all right. The position that they had me lay in though for MRIs, so painful. It makes my entire body go numb. My legs were shaking too. I don't know why that is, but I have a really hard time keeping my legs still. Trying to get an MRI. I know I'm supposed to be laying there, and I think that's part of the problem. I know that I'm supposed to be as still as I possibly can, and my legs are still just like shaking uncontrollably. So I tried to lay there as best I could. The other thing is, I worried that I was going to be hot during my MRI, and when I get hot, it makes my anxiety worse, and it makes my panic attacks worse. So I was really worried that I was going to be hot, and I'm laying there. It was freezing cold in that MRI room. I'm just going to assume that that is part of an MRI and getting an MRI. I feel like they probably make it cold on purpose, because the first one was also very cold. But I'm sitting there, and she had offered me a blanket a little bit earlier. She comes back in the room, she's like, how you doing? I'm like, great. This room is absolutely freezing cold. She's like, do you want a blanket? I was like, yes, please. So she goes over, she gets a blanket out of a blanket warmer. I cannot tell you, one of my favorite things about hospitals is their blanket warmers. Like, I want to buy one for myself for my house, because I love blankets that come out of a blanket warmer. So she grabs it, she comes in, she lays it over the top of me. I'm like, all right, we're chilling, we're doing good. So I had already taken the headphones off during this part just so that I could hear her if she continued to keep talking to me, but I still had the earplugs in. So she finally comes back in. She was like, okay, the radiologist is here. We're gonna go ahead, get the contrast dye in, and then we will go ahead and get the last part of your MRI done. I was like, all right, perfect. So she comes over and she tells me that she needs to put like a little butterfly in. It's not gonna be a full-fledged IV needle, but it's gonna be like a little butterfly just so that she can get it in there and then get the contrast dye in. So she gets ready to start doing that. She asks us if I have an arm that is better than the other one. I've had a ton of blood draws done. I've had several IVs in my arm. And I tell her, I was like, typically they end up going in my hand because they can't find them in my arm. So she checks on my left arm and she was like, oh, I think I can feel a vein like right here. It's the same vein that everyone says that they can feel, but nobody can ever get anything out of it. It never works. So I'm like, okay, and I'll let her try it if she thinks she found it. I don't know what it is that's in my arm right there, but it never works. So she put it in there, didn't get anything out of it, and actually it hurt pretty bad. It was stinging pretty bad. I don't know if you got there. Yep, you can see it. So I do have quite a bit of a bruise right there, but like I said, same thing. Everyone's always like, oh, yep, I found one. It's right here in your arm. Same side of my arm, everything. I don't know what it is that's in there. It's never my vein. It never draws any blood. It never does what it's supposed to do, but I let her do it anyway. And she's like, now I can see why they go in your hand. So she ended up pulling the needle back out of there and decided to try my left hand instead. You can kind of see the little dot. It was very, very swollen when I left earlier. It's not anymore. And it did hurt quite a bit, like to touch it. But now it feels fine. It's a little bit bruised and you can see like the red spot on it, but it's been perfectly fine so far. So I have had contrast dye before, but it was for 2 CTs rather than MRI. So she gets ready, puts the dye in. I feel like I can taste it in my mouth when she put it in. It was very, very cold in my hand, and then all of a sudden I feel like I can taste it in my mouth. This happened the last time I was in the ER. Something similar kind of happened. I don't know what it was that they had put in. It was not contrast dye. It was something else. But I felt like I could taste it in my mouth, and then all of a sudden I got super nauseous and felt like I was gonna throw up. And I was like, hey, I feel like, no, like legit, I feel like I'm about to throw up. She starts panicking. She like is trying to hold because the needle's still in my hand. So she's like trying not to move that around too fast, but then like whips around to get one of the bags, and she hands me a bag. And then she's like, do you want to sit up? And I was like, absolutely yes, please. So she has to like undo the strap that's across my chest so that I can sit up. So I sat up and I'm like swing my legs around so that I'm sitting on the very edge of the bench. As soon as I sat up, I was fine. The nausea went away. The feel like I was gonna vomit went away. I was totally fine. I sat there for a couple of minutes. She's like, I'm gonna let you sit here, catch your breath. And then she's like, do you think you're okay? And I was like, yeah, I think so. My big fear though now is like, if I lay back down, am I gonna feel nauseous again? I also didn't want to feel nauseous while I'm in the machine. I'm already anxious. I'm already feeling really panicky. If I feel like I'm gonna throw up while I'm in this machine, or I actually throw up on myself in this machine, that's it. Like, I'm done. Never getting another MRI in my life. So I'm like, okay, let's just take this slow. We'll lay down, we'll lay back. So I very slowly laid back. She's like, are you doing good? And I was like, yeah, I think we're okay. So she put the strap back across, put the foam thing back up underneath my legs, put my headphones back on, handing me my panic button, and it seemed like we were good to go. So as soon as she gets everything back on, I'm strapped back in. She's like, are you good? I said, yep, I think so. She said, you've got about 2 more rounds of imaging, and then you should be able to come back out. So it should be about 8 minutes. I'm like, all right, perfect. So puts me back in, totally fine. I mean, I was anxious, but I'm a very anxious person anyway, so I think that just kind of came with the territory. But it definitely went a lot better than I thought it was going to. As soon as I was done, she starts bringing me back out of the machine, and then sends me back to the locker room, and she was like, you're good to go. So went back in the locker room, put on my clothes again, got all my stuff, and then I left. So yeah, like I said, really happy that it went way better than I expected it to. I was really worried that we were gonna panic and have to press that button and have her pull me back out of there, but we were fine. So she told me as I was leaving that my doctor should have the results by tomorrow. I don't know what that means for me, when I'll have the results from my doctor, but she did say by tomorrow, because I've already gotten the EMG done, and then this MRI, I'm supposed to schedule a follow-up appointment. I don't know if they're going to call me or I'm supposed to call them. I'll probably end up calling them tomorrow just to see, but I'm assuming that I'm going to have to go back in to get my results to see what's fully going on from this EMG and this MRI. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the EMG that I had done. I've had 2 done so far. The first one was on my left arm. The second one was on both of my legs. An EMG is also called an electromyography test. There are 2 parts to the test. So for the second test that I had done on my legs, I do have a little bit of footage from that, kind of showing the machine a little bit. To kind of talk through that one. So I went down to Indianapolis to my neurologist's office, went in, they took me back, had me put on a hospital gown, and then I sat on the edge of the table. Like I said, this one was in both of my legs. So first he put 2 little like electrical pads on one of my legs to start off with, and then he's got this little like probe thing that's got 2 little sticky parts on the end, and it's metal, and he dipped it in some like gel that they use for typically you see it used in like ultrasounds and stuff. So he dipped it in there, and then he stuck it on my leg and basically just gave me a small electrical shock. So there's 5 different areas on the leg that he tested, 1 on each leg, so 10 areas altogether, and he sticks it on there, and then he just gives a little electrical shock, and then he's looking for waves that come up on his screen. He kind of showed me what was going on with that. Went through the first part of it with the electrical, and then he switched over. The second part involves a needle, and basically they take the needle and they stick it into your leg, and then he kind of moves it around a little bit. You can feel it moving. So I'm not afraid of needles per se. I don't like watching them go into my skin. If I get a blood draw, I'm closing my eyes, looking away. I'm like, please just get it done as quickly as you can. I'm not the biggest fan of needles, but I also definitely don't have like any kind of needle phobia or anything like that. So yes, he put it in my leg, and then he started showing me on the test. He said, this is abnormal, this is not supposed to look like this. Basically, it just looked like waves, and the line was supposed to be fairly flat, and some parts that he tested, the wave was really, really big. And he's like, do you see that? That's not supposed to look like that. So I do know that the test results are abnormal for the EMG so far. I don't know what that means fully, and it's going to be combined with whatever they find during the MRI. So I am waiting to hear from my neurologist, but I do know that so far something was abnormal on this EMG. I have my follow-up appointment to go back and talk about my MRI and my EMG results this morning. I came these videos on TikTok, and they're like, this is the worst medical test I've ever had to do, and it's a little